And welcome back to the last segment of the the news review segment of the Power Breakfast Show. In my panel this morning, of course, is Speaker Nairobi County Beatrice Elachi and Gakure Monyo, First Deputy Governor Nairobi Murang'a. We were initially looking at the intricacies and the intrigues in the position of the Deputy Governor and how it influences the management and the running of the county leadership. Now, to the rest of the stories in the making headlines of interest, of course, is the new fuel prices dealing a blow to poor families. The back page of the Daily Nation has a story about the rise in prices for kerosene by 3 shillings and 36 cents, diesel by 2 shillings and 39 cents, and petrol, super petrol, by 2 shillings and 33 cents. This is coming hot on the heels of the announcement last week by the Energy Regulatory Commission that low electricity power consumers will now be paying as high as high or medium electricity power consumers, a clear indication on the rise in the cost of life. And that came shortly after the Ministry of Agriculture announced that now there will be no more subsidized unga. Gentlemen and lady, what are we looking at as a country? Fuel prices up, no more subsidized unga, electricity prices up. Beatrice.
First of all, it's very unfortunate that they follow each other, and all of them are issues that really touch the majority of our citizens. And that is where I always find it very unfortunate now when the technocrats who advise the president on some of these issues when we start, because I always say you have a short term, but you have to look of the long term, and before your short term is over, long term should be entering in. You should be entering into that long term. So for me, when they come and they start with power, which with the power, you know, you can decide when you're at home, because it's a token. Yeah, you can decide whether I want to pay them or not, but you'll still need power. That is different. But now when you come and touch unga,
and say what we were giving you before is now not available
then I don't
anymore.
understand. I am sorry to tell my government this morning, I don't understand you. Because one thing, if you want to understand why Kenyans felt you have a second term on yourself, is because you promised a few issues. They are working. Now, these technocrats have to sit down and rethink. But to come and just say one morning that you don't have subsidy, why? You can't. You don't have subsidy, the price of electricity goes up, now the price of fuel goes up. For me, especially kerosene, for fuel with the cars, we can discuss. It is, yes, wrong also in the morning. But for kerosene, no. There's no discussion, because you know who is using this. And even getting it is very difficult. But fuel affects everything else, because the distributors and suppliers of commodities will say that transport costs have gone up. So that means the person who bears the brunt is the common consumer again. But what I also want to ask is that this transformation we've been having in terms of looking at power and ensuring we have more people on power, then I think the Ministry of Energy should have also thought clearly that as much as you increase this, we will have a challenge when it comes to maybe in January. They have not told us the reasons, if it is water, because the other day we had a blackout in the whole of Nairobi and Uganda. So I don't know whether it was that grid that had a problem. Yeah, that affected the leadership us. Was here and they explained that. But sorry. And also, when you are in a transition where you've just come into government, some of these things you will have to feel. And I want to tell them, let us look at, let us not go these things of, I can see we have very many water dams we are doing, which is good. But now we have to rethink. We have to rethink and say we can slow down on a few of those big projects and have money come back into what Kenyans, because Kenyans will not fill the dam now as much as I need the dam, because this is why water has a problem either in Nairobi or in the other place. But I want to ask the government, and I know now we are still reconstituting the same government, that let us relook at our priorities for Kenyans, because they are suffering. You find we have a low turnout of people going to school. Reasons our parents do not have resources. We did a campaign like politicians. We forgot that these things will come to affect the country, because the businessmen were not doing business. the businessmen could not have an environment to do that.
We politicked for a whole year.
And now these are the effects of that politics.
What is there left for a common Kenyan? First, no subsidized unga. Then electricity prices go up. And now fuel prices go up.
You know, this awakens me to the saying that misfortunes never come simply. And I want to look at it. Let's go to power. We start with power. There is a recovery of power bills. There is escalated billing. There is now no power. There is high cost of power, and you wonder, which comes first? Is it recovery of the so-said 10 billion of not billed properly money, or is it the cost of power? It's very unfortunate for the common Mwananchi, because they're stretching themselves too much to make a living, and they have now a shortage of power. Go to food. There's no subsidized maize flour. In the same breath, the silos are full. You find Governor Mandago fighting here that my farmers don't have anywhere to take the maize. Why don't you subsidize the locally produced maize and then get it into subsidy? Might even be a little cheaper, because then the end is that the Kenyan farmer will benefit. So the subsidy should not end because it was imported maize. It can end because we have silos full at the all grain handlers and NCPD. And then we have that subsidized to benefit the farmer and benefit the consumer by getting a continuity with the subsidized maize. Then go to kerosene. My mother, who uses kerosene in a way or another, must spend 75 shillings and 36 cents in Muranga to buy a liter of kerosene. Kerosene is used both for fuel and for lighting. What happens? 75 shillings and 36 cents. It's too high for a common Mwananchi to spend. This is leading to the results you've seen. Poor kids who've gone through those challenges performed so well in KCP, but they can't afford to go to secondary
education. So the little money that would have been saved was used to buy kerosene so that they read and
buy the unga and all that. So it is upon the country to look at how do you put together all the dots that abide together the common interest and comfort of the common Mwananchi.
When you say upon the country, who exactly are you referring to?
It's everybody. It's you and me. What is your role? Because it is not what the government has done to me. What have I also done to the government? So it is all of us, both those who advise, those who implement, those who register, you and I, who are people who are the consumers and the taxpayers. We all need to have looked into, and as different dots, so that it comes to a point that you're comfortable as a taxpayer, you're comfortable as a consumer,
but now,
and also the government is also comfortable.
I'll refer to your mom, who you have just mentioned, who is buying kerosene at 75 shillings and 36 cents per litre. What can she do?
It's unfortunate. She must now...
What can she do to change this?
It's unfortunate because she must look for another 3 shillings to make a phone call to me to ask her to give her the 75 shillings. But however, it can be addressed from...
Not all mothers have sons who will give them 3 shillings.
Absolutely. So that is what I'm saying. Then others will not be able. So it is in the interest of the ERC to say that you're looking at cost of kerosene, at least lower. Tax on it should be looked at it and work backwards as a subsidy to the kerosene and all that, because the amount on fuel levy is what makes this so expensive. So if it is plowed back, it can be a subsidy to kerosene.
Somebody is asking me something quite interesting. We say there is no water in Nairobi. There is no water in Nairobi because of drought. That means a lot of sunshine, and we still pay more for lighting. Why can't we use solar? Are we not being proactive as a country?
Yes, and I think for now, and I'm hoping that even the CC who is in charge of land housing, that every house today in Nairobi should be having a solar, especially the new houses that are coming up. In fact, you need to, and I know it is a law that we need to discuss, all of us, that one, we need to ensure and do that inspection, that all these high-rises I'm seeing all over you've put in the panels that are able, that when there's, you can use that instead of having electricity. So you need to have a biodigester, because now we talk of all these things about garbage collection, and then let us put in the systems going forward so that we reduce also our risks that we've had, and all these fights we've had even with the cartels in garbage collection and all that, that is making it very difficult, and you're spending a lot of money in collecting that garbage. If it is markets, put biodigesters to do the thing. And let us come up also with a law, this thing of water. We can start recycling. What is wrong with Kenya when we know we've moved into a modern world? Recycle what you flush in your toilets, what you do, and have now clean water just for drinking.
Very brilliant ideas. What is lacking?
I think it's an element of putting
other jurisdictions are doing it.
I think it's an element of us putting all our heads together, because you can hear very good suggestions coming from Speaker Beatrice, and I'm sure you might shortly start hearing Nairobi registrating things into that angle. And it is registered that every house should have a solar panel, but they say for water heating purposes, is that you replace the water heating geyser with a solar panel. If you look at the windmills on Gong, in Tarkwell and all those, if we have now solar farms in the northeastern part where we have a lot of sunshine, then you will find a lot of power coming from the solar farms into the national grid at a lower cost and all that. Yeah, there will be a capital injection for the first few because of the installation of the solar farms and all that. But eventually, as we suffer drought, we'll have extra energy, both for fuel and industrial use and all that. So I think with the mandate of the Constitution into public participation, I think we need to put our heads together. You're looking at long-term, and purely very long-term, not depending on presidency and 5 terms or 10 terms and all that, looking at extreme long-term for the benefit of our country.
Thank you very much, Bwana Gakure Mwenyewe. As I give you a chance to give your last comments, because we are winding up on this segment of the news review, maybe you could just flash back and consider some of the things the government in place promised Kenyans. Cheaper living, cost of life, and all the rest. Where are we now, and what would be your advice to Kenyans?
Looking at the 4 main pillars, as the President calls them, I am convinced, beyond doubt, that this will come to fruition. And it will come to fruition because if you give affordable housing, you've got enough security, you have proper food supply to the common mwananchi, you have proper health care, the common mwananchi will be eased of the burden that they end up asking for assistance. Free schooling, free health care, cheaper housing, and a sufficient food supply. The common mwananchi will be self-sustaining in what they have. Then
in the long run.
In the long run.
So for now, wakaze kamba.
Hata wakikaza wajue ya kwamba at least kuna nuru inaonekana mbele.
Beatrice.
For me, I want to tell Kenyans, one, I know it is a January with a lot of difficulties. It is a January where I plead to my government that there are a few things we will have to do a bit different. First of all, let us look at this kerosene and unga, because it touches the majority of Kenyans. And in between, somebody will think because you're putting kerosene, you know it is a majority of people, and so you're able to bring back what you're looking for, if it is resources or that. So let us not make Kenyans think that way. As we support the President in coming up now with the cabinet now, and I know Kenya has a bright year. But one thing I know is that we have a very bright year where we will see a difference for our country, and the businessmen will come up and see a difference. We have to come out now as January and say, we're going to have a pain, but not pain putting it on our people. It is a pain where the government will bear the blunt because of what we have done, maybe a bit wrongly. And it is always good to look at criticism and say, this we have done not right. And it is not the President. It is us, all of us, especially the technical team that does things for the President. we have to bring this. I will plead with the government, UNGA, you cannot take us back to 140. Not now.
It has to go back to remain at 90.
Yes. We have to rethink and look at of ways, and the minister within the Ministry of Agriculture should rethink. He should not even joke. No. Because in January, parents are looking at, we promised them free education. Now that we are going and we are finding it with a bit challenges, then don't give them another challenge of UNGA. Let us now deal with what we promised, which is indeed it will work in the day schools very well, and I think it has started. It has a challenge with the boarding schools, with a few things that not the president has done, but the principals have decided here is what we want and this is what we want. These children that we are seeing walking with boxes from poor families, we must ensure every child. Let us not take advantage of an admission of a poor child because he or she has not gone to school. And I want to plead with the principals, do not give it out. Let us not see a child coming with a letter on media saying now my position has been taken. Give them even a month to await, because January is always a very difficult month. Give them a month and let us see after January if every child, if they are not, for us who are able, let us take up these children, because now the school fees has come down and the principals have to accept. I know I have many of them. Some of them were returned home just because they didn't have 9,000. And I'm like, we've been paying these school fees. How do you return a Form 3 child who you know very well is under sponsorship? And there are many challenges that are facing this child that you return to where? So I want to plead also with the principals, have to know that parents, there are children who are orphans. There are children who are being supported, yes, by well-wishers. And if he comes or she comes with a letter to tell you, give me this period of 1 month or 1 week, you have to accept the child into the school.
Thank you very much.
Lastly, I want to talk now to my governor and deputy. And I want to tell them, you need to go into a room, close yourselves and tell yourselves anything that you'll need to tell. But when you come out, remember, the president and the deputy are working together. That was the most difficult part for those two to come together. You can't come and tell us now, you can't sit and work together. We pray that you'll have the wisdom of Solomon. And I want to tell my governor, you have to find yourself in prayers and ask God to give you the wisdom as Solomon on how to run Nairobi. Because you have the biggest challenge with cartels, with interest, but God can guide you. And look for religious men and women to guide you.
Speaker Beatrice Elachi, Nairobi County, of course, Mheshimiwa Gakure Monyo, for First Deputy Governor, Murang'a County. My panelists this morning, thank you very much for your insights and inputs. A lot of lamentations all over the cost of life, the misunderstandings and everything. But look, like they say, what your tongue confesses is what you get in life. If you are positive and optimistic, and you believe in it, so will everything that happens in the life. And that's why later on in the show, just after a short while, Joy Mudengi will be here with words of inspiration on Monday. But before then, Carlos Kiba with some entertainment.